Greetings viewers, welcome back to the channel and welcome to 9 AM Friday morning on the marvellous Moffat Beach, Sunshine Coast, down under Australia, here in the great southeast. Let's check it out. So folks, we're going to head towards the beach shortly. Closer look at the waves rolling in here in Moffat Beach. You know, it's been a couple of years since I've been here, and there's a bit of construction going on. There's new restaurants, new accommodation. Yeah, things are kind of happening here at Moffat Beach, and we're at the southern end of the Sunshine Coast, and this beach, Moffat Beach, quite popular with surfers. And folks, don't forget to like, share and subscribe on CoffeeChillTV. Let's keep going with the video today. And folks, today's video, yes, I want to show you some of the pleasant visuals in and around Moffat Beach, but I also want to get into some travel and expat and retiree talk. I'm going to make another addition to my socio-economic philosophic playlist on CoffeeChillTV. So folks, there's your lagoon. It's tidal, brackish water there, you know, salt and fresh all mixed in together, and we're going to be zipping around here shortly. Going to jump under a gazebo to keep moving forward with my, you know, expat retiree talk for the day. And as I spin back around this way, excuse any wind effects and dodgy camera work because I'm on a handheld device, folks, yeah, look, swimming here, it's not the safest beach to swim on, but it is popular with surfers. And then you've got, you know, millionaires row, billionaires row. You got some very expensive houses and apartments there as they look out towards the Pacific Ocean and the wide blue yonder. Yes, that's how it's a beautiful day, guys. It's absolutely beautiful. Well, okay viewers, we've got a little spot under one of the gazebos here in the park at Moffat Beach, and yeah, we're going to get into today's topic. Okay. And folks, today's CoffeeChillTV chat is all about, you know, retirement, retiree, expatriate living. You want to move overseas and you want to be successful, however it is that you define success. And yeah, we're going to go through some research that I've done online, some of my own extensive experience as a retiree expat abroad, and in between you can enjoy some of the visuals here at the most delightful Moffat Beach. So there we go, guys. You want to retire overseas? You want to move abroad permanently or semi-permanently? Well, look before you leap. Okay, folks, so this morning, after breakfast, I decided to sort of Google up, successful expatriate retirement, success factors. And according to the search results through Google, they sort of identified half a dozen key points of consideration. Let me run you through those. So, folks, careful planning. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It's the old cliche, isn't it? And yeah, careful planning. And as someone who's, been a working expat, a volunteer expat, a retired expat, a full-time expat, a part-time expat, I'm coming at this, with my own experiences and ideas, but I'm going to, slice and dice them with the external research. So let's get into the list. So, according to my search results this morning, that careful planning, specifically, we need to zero in on financial structures, tax compliance, healthcare, as well as a trial run to ensure lifestyle alignment. And yeah, that last one, in my experience, can often be overlooked. Do you connect with this location? Glossy brochures and carefully curated social media content is not always the reality, guys. Is there a person culture fit? Is there a person culture misfit? Pretty important, that last one. But yeah, and I'd also extol the virtues of the trial run. So we'll get into those. And folks, in the interest of balance, yes, there's those success factors, and they are sort of a two-sided wedge. They are interconnected to the potential pitfalls of retiring overseas, to permanent, semi-permanent relocation to another country. And let me give you some of these potential pitfalls as well. So I mentioned before about culture. Yeah, it's very easy to underestimate cultural differences. Things that might seem eccentric, novel, curious, bemusing. Underestimating cultural differences, it can kind of grate on some people. So, that's a potential pitfall. Additionally, let's get to the next one. Additionally, guys, there's social isolation. Now, this can be a major drama for some. And when we get into strategies in regards how you manage and set up what your expatriate life picture looks like, and you should tailor it to suit your situation. Social isolation, often under discussed in my experience. And yeah, when I googled up this morning, potential pitfalls, hidden tax consequences. Now, what I found online was a lot of people talking about the hidden tax consequences in the country that they choose, the host country. But folks, there can be hidden tax consequences in your home country as well. You know, you need to think about those things. If you're thinking about tax, well, there can be social security issues either in the host country or in your homeland as well. And connected to social security and tax, estate planning, guys. Estate planning. Okay, now I'm going to give you a quote on that line. And folks, on that note, death, taxes, social security, we're going to talk about healthcare access, insurance, etc. Folks, specialised advice. Specialised advice. This video, you know, I'm just sharing with you my research, my experience, but please do not mistake this for personal advice. And yeah, you know, if you have significant issues in regards social security, tax, estate planning, insurance, health care, well, get specialised advice, guys. Don't get advice from a vlogger who's just casually sharing their musings like I am today. And guys, in the notes there'll be, you know, a little advice warning, no advice, disclaimer. Yeah, that'll be in the notes. And hey, I hope you enjoyed the legal slide. Let's get back to the edutainment section. So folks, speaking about experts, a pitfall in regards expat life can be expatriates who, you know, maybe they launch successfully for a year, maybe 2 years, and all of a sudden they get kind of smug. And you know, they get kind of smug. So just be aware of not overinflating your own level of knowledge. Yeah, so folks, you know, success factors, tips, traps and pitfalls. There are financial and non-financial. And yeah, one of the most, you know, kind of amusing pitfalls that I find is a declaration that's premature of victory. If you go onto social media, you'll see heaps of stuff from bloggers and vloggers who've spent 12 months overseas, and they'll be declaring victory, saying, oh, I've spent a year overseas and here's how to be a successful expatriate. Here's how to live abroad with, you know, health, wealth and wisdom. In my opinion, that's a bit premature. I reckon give it a couple of years before you start, I suppose, talking up your own credentials and your own story, because, you know, a lot of those bloggers and vloggers, after a couple of years, they disappear. They're gone. Okay, they've gone back home. So just be mindful that if you're moving overseas and it's all rosy for the first 1, 2, even 3 years, could continue that way. It could continue that way, but, you know, don't get ahead of yourself when it comes to, you know, any kind of pumped up false sense of hubris in regards your success story as an expat. And just to kind of wrap up that point, look, you've moved overseas. Maybe you've been abroad for a year, maybe 2 years. That doesn't make you an anthropologist, an economist, a political scientist, you know, a philosopher, a relationship expert. Okay, it doesn't make you some cultural attaché, you know, some great historian. Realize your own expectations. Don't get too far ahead of yourself, because that's a pitfall that a lot of expats fall into. And so folks, when it comes to major life decisions, okay, there's general wisdom that postulates that you shouldn't make significant decisions when you are experiencing exuberance or despair. Okay, wait until the cold light of day. Okay, you come back from a couple of weeks in the Philippines. It's awesome, and you come back and, you know, you have an argument with your boss, you chuck in the job, you sell the house, and you get a one-way ticket to the Philippines. And it may work out just fine and dandy for you. But if you're too hasty, guys, you can come a cropper. And, you know, with major life decisions, you know, start with the end in mind. Might sound a bit counterintuitive, but why would I plan for my move overseas with a potential return in mind? Well, guys, it's all about contingency planning, I reckon. And folks, you know, just building on that point of starting with the end in mind. You know, if you start a business, you know, you're talking to your accountant, your advisor, he or she's going to say, okay, you're going to start this business, but what's your exit plan? And you think, well, I don't have an exit plan, I'm going all in. Yeah, but things can change. Okay, you want to become an expat, you want to retire overseas, and okay, well, what is your exit strategy if it doesn't quite work out the way you expect? And on that front, guys, mindset's important. Okay, going home is not automatically a failure. All right, you go overseas and something happens, either in your host country or in your homeland, and you return home. You know, I see too much stuff on social media that, oh, why do so many expats fail? Why are so many expats successful? Well, I reckon it's a bit more nuanced than that. It's not so cut and dried. How do you define success? How do you define failure? Are you going overseas, you know, for the next 10 years, and then you plan to come back to your home country for the final chapter of your life? Are you going over lock, stock and barrel? That's great, okay. But, you know, define your success. Don't let others define success for you. All right, so circling back to the start, you know, those points that came up with that theme of careful planning, specifically in regards financial structures, tax compliance, healthcare, the trial run to ensure lifestyle alignment. All right, let's unpack the first three together, and then I'll look at the last point separately. Okay, guys, so financial structures and tax compliance. You know, I'll also include estate planning structure and social security, government support, pensions. Okay, they're all kind of mixed up together because, you know, as Mark Twain said, death and taxes are the only two things we can be certain of. So, financial structures. I was Googling up this question earlier, and I went across a few different sites, And on one of the sites, they suggested that there's value in terms of your financial structure in continuing to hold investments in your homeland. Now, once again, disclaimer and waiver, I'm not here to give financial advice, but the point that was being made was that, you know, don't put your eggs in one basket. Hedge your bets. Things may change in your homeland, and things may change in your host country, and I suppose consider, is that appropriate? It may or may not be appropriate, but you know, I know some expats who continue to hold investments in their homeland, savings accounts, share trades. Some of them hold commodities, some of them hold property, superannuation, pensions, etc. Get specialised advice, guys. And if you've got significant assets and you want to spend a significant amount of time overseas, then you may want to talk to, you know, lawyers and accountants who have specialised knowledge in those areas before you decide to buy, sell, or hold. Also dovetails into tax compliance, doesn't it? Don't step outside the sidelines on that. And folks, you know, downsizing, it's very trendy, can be very effective for some, and you know, these days people also talk about right sizing as well. And if you are going to, you know, keep that property in Canada, in the States, in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, wherever it is, and you know, you want to retire to Cambodia, and you think, you know what, I might rent out my formerly principal place of residence and make it a permanent rental or a holiday home rental, you know, Airbnb, booking.com, whatever. I don't endorse or disendorse any platforms on this channel. We don't get any kickbacks. We're a commission-free zone here, folks. If you do that, just be aware that it could affect your tax, it could affect your social security, could affect your estate plans. Okay, yeah, guys, you know, a long run-up, I would suggest. A long run-up. Don't just sort of make a spur-of-the-moment decision. Not to say that some folks haven't over the years and it's been totally successful for them. Yeah, do your research, guys. Understand the full consequences before you know, let's rent out the house. Let's leave it vacant. Let's Airbnb it. Let's sell it. Yeah, just, you know, as I said at the start, look before you leap. All right, folks, we're coming down to the final quarter of the match. We like sporting analogies on this channel. A trial run to ensure lifestyle alignment. Sounds like a little bit of a word salad, doesn't it? But let's unpack. So folks, in one of my earlier videos, Udon Thani, northeastern Thailand, a little big town story, I talk about the benefits of a trial run. So I actually did a trial run in Jomtien, Thailand. I was trial running both retirement and expat living. And, you know, I was retired in Jomtien for several months, and, you know, I enjoyed it. But then, you know, there was kind of a change in my thinking and a little bit of a curveball. And folks, yeah, there was two curveballs. First one that I found a different location, Udon Thani in Thailand, and you know, so I had a preset idea. I'm going to retire to Jomtien. That's what I'm going to do. But I changed my mind after a trial run in Jomtien, and I ended up in Udon Thani. Additionally, it was a trial run for retirement. You know, I was a young retiree by Australian standards, and I did enjoy my early retirement. I got a bit bored though, you know, so I did some volunteer teaching, and then I came out of retirement and I became a working expatriate in Thailand. I taught in a school for a couple of years. Folks, I've done that before. In the 1990s, I worked 2 6-month stints in London as a live-in, you know, bartender. And I'd previously been to London about 18 months, 2 years earlier, as a tourist. I'm a big fan of the trial run, guys. You know, the trial run really is something that I would extol the virtues of. What about lifestyle alignment? Sounds like a bit of a buzzword, doesn't it? But I like it. Let me dig a bit deeper. Okay guys, lifestyle alignment. You know, so-called Western culture, so-called Eastern culture. Sometimes there's a culture match, sometimes there's a culture clash. And you know, what is your lifestyle back home? And can you live a similar lifestyle, albeit in a different location, if you choose to retire abroad? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So folks, if I think about my lifestyle here, half the year on the Sunshine Coast, well, the beach. I love body surfing. I love swimming. That's part of my lifestyle. When I come back home to Australia, you know, going for a swim at the beach, which I plan to do early next week before it starts to get cool again, that's part of my lifestyle. Now, in Udon Thani, Thailand, there's no beach. I mean, there is an Udon Thani beach, but it's a pond. It's not a real beach. You have to compromise a little bit, you know. Now, there are parts of Thailand with beautiful beaches, and if swimming and surfing and snorkeling and, you know, sunbathing and beach walks is part of your retirement lifestyle, well, just make sure your new host location, your new host country's location, matches, aligns with your lifestyle. And folks, lifestyle can mean a lot. You know, I remember many years ago talking to a New Zealand expatriate up in Nong Khai. This must have been, maybe 5 years ago. And I was living in Udon Thani, and I said, oh, you know, if things didn't work out in Udon Thani, maybe Nong Khai is my plan B. And this guy had been living in Nong Khai for a while and seemed pretty healthy and happy in his retirement. But he paused and he said, you know, it can get boring here sometimes. Now, I love going to Nong Khai. I love going for a couple of nights, sometimes 2 or 3 times a year. Never found it boring. But here's the rub, guys. Visiting a place as a tourist is a hell of a lot different to living day to day as a full-time expatriate. You know, you may find a place that keeps your interest up for a week, doesn't keep your interest up for 12 months. And folks, whilst we're talking about lifestyle, in one of my earlier videos, retirement, the 4 keys and me. You know, I share Noel Whittaker. He's a financial pundit, a financial influencer, a fin influencer, and he talks about, you know, diet, exercise, having a sense of purpose, and building a social network. That doesn't change when you move overseas. And a lot of material I've seen online, you know, it really does push, you know, putting all those things together in what you might call having a kind of a regular positive routine. Because guys, there will come a time, if you're watching this and you haven't yet lived as an expat, let me tell you, there will come a time when expat living just becomes living. Okay, and when that happens, are you transitioning in to, you know, positive routines, lifestyles? That's important. On that note, there's also, you know, the stuff that isn't so glamorous. And when we're talking about stuff that's not so glamorous, budgeting. Now, once again, I'm not giving you financial advice here today. There's lots of different ways to approach budgeting. I see YouTubers who have their whole niche is budgeting. They go super forensic. I watched a video the other day, a New Zealand couple, really interesting stuff, and they broke everything down, from utilities to groceries to accommodation to entertainment and transport, and, you know, really judicious approach. Other approaches can be, you have a line in the sand. This is a minimum balance in some kind of operating slush fund account, and, you know, when you start to get down to that level, you need to make some adjustments, even in regards your spending circle. Maybe it needs to come in a little bit. Maybe it's been expanding. You got to make some decisions. Other expats I've spoken to, they talk about the float. You know, they withdraw once or twice a month a certain amount of money, and if they find themselves, you know, jumping above that, they start to have a look at things. You know, so yeah, you know, budgeting. It's not the most glamorous financial topic, but hey, you know, in my experience, expatriates that are kind of, you know, kicking along nicely, they live within their means, and, you know, they have a budget. It might be a rough budget, it might be, you know, super forensic, but either way, they've got an idea of the ins and outs. Where's the money going and flowing? And, you know, finally, folks, do your research. Consider all the consequences, financial, non-financial. Consider, you know, different approaches and strategies to address the financial and the non-financial, the tangible and the not so tangible. Do those things, guys. Do those things. You know, finally, don't burn your bridges. Don't burn your bridges. Don't say never ever, because, guys, you never know. Things can change. You know, things can change. You may need to come back to your homeland. Premature declarations of success or otherwise, you know, don't burn the bridge. Keep the door ajar is my general suggestion. So, folks, what do you do when, you know, you've made the decision, you've done your research, you did a trial run, you considered all the financial, the non-financial consequences, you did a line down the middle of a sheet of paper, pros and cons, pluses and minuses, and yes, vote 1, let's retire abroad. Well, there's one final little piece in the jigsaw. Well, it's not the only piece, but it's a piece I'm going to share with you. Folks, one of the issues that's not often discussed, and I did a lot of research on this topic before doing today's video log, communication. How are you going to launch your decision to your close circle of family and friends? How are they going to react? Are you ready for the reaction? Have you considered your response to their reaction? Could be super positive, could be lukewarm, it could be, downright disdain for your decision. How are people going to react, and how are you going to react to their reactions? And folks, reactions could be a warm embrace, and the people who support your decision, make sure you support them, you stay connected to them. When a reminder comes up on Facebook for the birthday, don't forget to post, message, etc. Video conference calls, text messages, staying connected. The other side is alienation and estrangement. I've met expats who've told me that, when they told their family that they were moving overseas permanently, that, they're kind of off the Christmas card list. And talking about Christmas cards also leads me to talk about events. So you've made that decision, you're going to move overseas, you're off to Siem Reap in Cambodia, and you're going to pitch your tent there. Then over the years, christenings, weddings, birthdays, funerals, anniversaries, retirement parties, and, different milestones are happening. You could most likely miss them. Okay, now there's technology, and I'm going to share you a story on technology in a moment, to try to assist, but you've got to think about that. And I've got two final stories to maybe one proactive, positive, one a bit more sobering as we come down the home straight today. So folks, let's start with the sobering story. Going back quite a few years ago now, when I was teaching business English, one of my students, he was working overseas as an expat, as an engineer. His mum was not well. His sister said to him, "You better come home and see mum, because we're getting close to, So he zipped home, and he spent about a month there, and his mum, just kept on rolling. So, this guy had taken a month off from work, a responsible position, well paid, and for the sake of his career and the business that had allowed him a month off, he went back to work. Fast forward, 12 months later, he told me that his mum did pass away. And it was very sudden. He couldn't get time off. Basically, his boss said, "Well, you can have time off, but you'll have to resign." So he didn't make it back for his mum's funeral. He paid for the funeral. Okay, he paid for the funeral. you know, he sent gifts and flowers and a little speech and everything to assist the eulogy. And he told me, you know, half the people were fine with that, accepting and supportive. He told me, but you know, there's a couple of people that haven't spoken to him since he missed his mum's funeral. You know, the logistics, guys, of getting home and getting to places for important life events, be it yours or someone in your circle, have a think about that, guys. Have your plans in place, or at least factor in what you're going to do. And whilst we're talking about funerals, it was probably several years ago now, one of my good friends from high school passed away. I couldn't make it back home to Australia for the funeral, but one of my mates who also attended the funeral, and he did a speech at the funeral too. He did a really good job. Live streamed. You know, not as good as being there, but I dialed in for a live stream for one of my good friends' funerals. So, you know, technology, guys, it's got some elements to it that, you know, are a bit, you know, George Orwell, 1984. But technology also helps manage and mitigate some of the potential downsides and pitfalls of expatriate living. Voila, folks, we're going to wrap it up here. You know, pitfalls, tips, traps, strategies. You want to retire overseas, you want to become an expat, you know. I hope you found some of the information I shared here today useful. And what about you? Have you got some sage advice to share, some experiences? Pop a note in the comments section if you wish to opine. Keep it classy if you do. And either way, folks, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and we'll see you again soon on CoffeeChillTV. Cheers for watching.